Story 1. The Man Who Slept on Top of Me. I've had sleep paralysis before. The twitching, the pressure, the buzzing in the ears. All of that was familiar. But what started happening last year wasn't paralysis. It was intrusion. Real intrusion. The first time I woke to the feeling of weight on my chest. That's common with paralysis. The sense that someone is sitting on top of you. But this wasn't sitting. This was lying down. Full body weight pressing into mine. Cold, heavy, unyielding. A man's chest compressing my lungs, his forearms pinning my shoulders, the outline of legs on both sides of my hips. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, couldn't move. Only my eyes shifted in tiny, panicked motions. Something was directly above my face. I felt the warmth of breath, but it was wrong. It wasn't warm like a human exhale. It was humid, damp, almost moldy, like inhaling the air inside a wet basement. His face hovered inches from mine, but I couldn't see it. Only the shadow of a head, a silhouette leaning closer, closer. Then, a whisper, a slow, gravelly breath against my cheek. Move, and I'll follow. I don't remember falling asleep again, only waking up hours later drenched in sweat, my chest aching from the pressure. I told myself it was just a vivid episode, until the second night. This time, I woke on my stomach, my face pressed into the pillow, breath nearly suffocating, and something lay across my back. The weight was incredible, not like a person, like a full-grown animal. And its hands slid forward, fingers curling around my ribs from underneath, as if embracing me. Long fingers. Too long. I felt one of them trail slowly up my spine, pressing into each vertebra as if counting bones. My jaw trembled uncontrollably. The whisper came again, inches from my ear. Don't turn around. Terror froze me more effectively than any paralysis ever had. I stayed motionless until dawn. The weight lifted just moments before the first birds began chirping. Only then I could move. My back hurt for hours. The third time it got worse. I woke on my side. I couldn't move, not because of paralysis, because someone was already holding me. Arms wrapped tightly around my waist, a cold hand cupping my jaw, tilting my head slightly upward, as though positioning me. A chin rested on the top of my head. The body behind me breathed slowly, deliberately, each inhale damp and rattling. I felt the lips brush my ear, not in a kiss, in a tasting motion. Slow, wet, exploratory. You're warmer tonight. The voice was deeper this time, thick with static, like a corrupted recording of a human voice. I wanted to scream. Nothing came out. Something cold pressed against my back, a forehead maybe, as it nuzzled into me. My eyes filled with tears. I couldn't wipe them, couldn't move my hands. Then its hand, that impossible, skeletal hand, lifted from my waist and traced the outline of my spine again. But this time it stopped at the base of my neck. A finger pressed there. Hard. If you wake up, I wake up too. And then, horrifyingly, a second voice, not a whisper this time, spoke from behind the first one. A woman's voice. Don't wake him. I stopped sleeping in my bed after that. But sleep finds you anyway. The couch didn't help. The floor didn't help. One night I fell asleep sitting upright against the wall, and woke to the weight dropping onto my lap so violently it knocked the wind out of me. Hands clamped on my cheeks, turning my face upward. I saw it then. Not clearly. Not fully. But enough. A face hovering just above mine, stretched too long, eyes wide with hunger or fascination, or both. Its mouth opened in a slow, unnatural smile. Now you can see me. I felt a cold tongue slide along my cheek. Paralysis broke. I screamed. My neighbors pounded the wall until I stopped. I tried a sleep clinic. They said my condition didn't match paralysis, didn't match night terrors, didn't match anything. One doctor quietly asked, "Do you ever feel as though someone else is already on the bed when you lie down?" I stared at him. He exhaled slowly. "You're not the first patient to tell me that." That was 3 months ago. I don't sleep much anymore. But some nights, especially when I'm exhausted enough to drift off without meaning to, I feel the mattress behind me sink, and cold arms wrap around my waist, and a voice breathes into my hair. "Don't wake up. I'm not finished lying with you." Story 2. The shadow that moved before I did. I used to think I understood sleep paralysis. I'd read all the threads, watched all the videos, heard all the explanations. Your brain wakes up before your body. Hallucinations. Leftover dream imagery. It all made sense, until my shadow started moving on its own. The first time it happened, I was lying in bed, scrolling my phone, fighting sleep. The lamp on my nightstand cast a soft yellow light across the room. My shadow stretched along the wall beside me, familiar, dull, perfectly attached. I must have dozed off without noticing. When I opened my eyes, I knew immediately I was paralyzed. My body felt encased in solid concrete. I couldn't move my arms, my legs, my neck. Even my breathing felt shallow and forced. The buzzing in my head, the pressure on my chest. It was textbook sleep paralysis. I stared at the wall. My shadow lay there, same as always, except that it blinked before I did. I felt my own eyelids stuck open, barely able to twitch. But on the wall, my shadow's eyes squeezed shut in a slow, deliberate motion, then opened again. My real eyes burned from dryness. I couldn't blink, but my shadow could. It shifted its head a fraction, like it was testing the boundary of movement. Its chest rose and fell with deeper, calmer breaths than mine. I tried to shout. My mouth didn't move. My tongue lay heavy like stone. On the wall, my shadow's jaw flexed. Its mouth opened in a silent yawn. I felt nothing. No stretch of my muscles. No movement in my actual face. My shadow continued to breathe, slow and measured, while my own lungs felt like they were filling with ice. Then, as I watched in frozen terror, the outline of my shadow's hand lifted from where my real arm lay pinned. The real arm didn't move, but the shadow arm did, peeling away from the form, bending, fingers flexing experimentally. The moment it lifted fully from the shadow of the mattress, the buzzing in my ears spiked. My heart pounded so violently I thought it might explode. The shadow hand reached upward, toward the outline of my face. And then, just before those black fingers touched my shadow cheek, the paralysis broke. My limbs jerked. My body convulsed. I gasped so loudly it hurt my throat. On the wall, the shadow snapped back into place like a rubber band. I slept with the lights on after that. It didn't help. The second episode happened 3 nights later. This time, I woke on my back, staring at the ceiling. I didn't remember falling asleep. The room was dim. Only the hallway light seeped through the half-open door, casting a long, angled shape of my body onto the far wall. I didn't dare look at it. I tried to move my fingers, my toes. Nothing. The familiar dread washed over me. Just write it out, I told myself. It's not real. It's chemical. It'll pass. But then something new happened. I felt the faint, unmistakable sensation of my own arm starting to rise. Only, I wasn't doing it. The muscles didn't tighten. The joints didn't move. My actual arm lay motionless along my side. And yet, I felt a phantom lightness, as if a part of me was lifting, stretching, reaching out. Slowly, trembling, I forced my eyes toward the wall. My shadow was sitting up. The outline of my head and shoulders peeled away from the silhouette of the pillow. Then the torso. Then one arm. It swung its legs over the edge of the bed, on the wall only, and stood. My real body didn't follow. I was still pinned to the mattress, heart screaming, lungs barely sipping air. But the shadow, my shadow, was upright now, angled in profile. It turned its head toward me. There are no eyes in a shadow, just empty shapes. But there was something behind that blankness. A focus, a curiosity, a presence I could feel like static against my skin. The shadow stepped closer to the wall by my bed, shrinking as it approached, until it stood right beside the outline of my head. It leaned down. On the wall, its mouth hovered near the place where my ear would be. And in the otherwise silent room, I heard a voice, not aloud, inside my skull. Soft and flat, like hearing a thought that wasn't mine. "You're slower than I am." The paralysis snapped like a cut wire. I shot upright so fast my vision went white. The shadow slammed back into normal position. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I bought blackout curtains, new lamp, new arrangement of furniture. I told myself if I controlled the lighting, I could control the shadow. For a few nights it worked. No incidents. Then, last week, I made another mistake. I fell asleep with the TV on. Flickering light filled the room, creating layers of moving shadows that danced on the walls and ceiling. It should have made everything more chaotic, harder to distinguish. Instead, it made one thing perfectly, horrifyingly clear. In the middle of the night, I awoke to paralysis again. The TV image jumped from bright to dim, throwing my shadow around in quick, jagged shifts. But one version of the shadow didn't move with the others. It stayed perfectly still, separate from the rest, holding its form as the light changed, as silhouettes lengthened and shortened. It was like watching multiple ghost images, except one refused to obey the rules. That one was mine. It detached again. This time, there was no slow peeling away. It stepped cleanly out of the flatness with a kind of elastic snap, like shaking something loose from tape. On the wall, my shadow self turned fully to face me. Not just a twisting of the neck outline. No, it rotated its entire upper body toward the bed. From my angle, I could see the suggestion of shoulders, ribs, spine, all rendered in inky black, but proportioned exactly like me. Every muscle I possessed screamed to move. I didn't. I couldn't. The shadow took another step on the wall, heading downward and sideways at the same time, as if moving across invisible stairs. And then, its feet touched the floor. There should have been nothing there, no surface to hold it. But the darkness thickened, solidified, as if the shadow had found something firm and stepped onto it. Now I wasn't just watching a trick of light. Something stood on my bedroom floor. I knew it. I felt it. Even though my real eyes could only see it flattened against surfaces, my body understood. There was weight in the room that hadn't been there before. Footsteps, not real audible ones, but the impression of them, like pressure on the boards beneath the bed. Soft creaks, tiny shifts. The silhouette bent down again, and that familiar non-voice slid into my thoughts. You move after I do. You sleep after I do. You wake after I do. Its head cocked slightly. Now I want to try something else. The shadow reached out. On the wall, its hand stretched toward the outline of my skull. In my body, I felt the sudden, unbearable sensation of invisible fingers sliding under my skin. Not touching bone, not touching muscle, but something else. Something deeper. I choked. I would have vomited if I could have moved. My vision doubled, tripled. For a moment, I saw from two angles at once, from the bed, staring at the wall, and from the wall, looking down at the bed. Two perspectives folding over each other like misaligned film reels. Then a third angle flickered in, standing by the door, looking at both. The presence pulsed with something like satisfaction. This voice was clearer, almost amused. "There we are. Now you understand." The paralysis broke so violently my muscles cramped. I screamed. By the time I fumbled for the lamp, the TV had gone to a black standby screen. My shadow lay flat again, innocent and normal in the lamplight. I scheduled a daytime nap experiment. Some desperate part of me wanted proof while the sun was up. Something to show a doctor, a friend, anyone. I set up my phone, camera facing the bed, shadow clearly visible on the opposite wall. I even clapped in front of it, moving my arms to show how the silhouette matched my motions. Then I lay down and tried to drift off. It didn't take long. Exhaustion makes a good sedative. The next thing I remember is the buzzing in my head and that familiar weight pinning me down. Paralyzed again. The room was bright with late afternoon light. The shadow on the wall should have been crisp, well-defined. It wasn't. It was gone. Just the bare outline of the bed. No body. No head. No arms. Panic crawled up my spine like a nest of spiders. I couldn't turn my neck, but I felt the air shift near my face, like someone standing far too close. My phone lay on the nightstand, facing me, its screen lit up by itself. I don't know what opened the camera app. I don't know what tapped to switch it to front-facing mode. But suddenly, I was staring at myself indirectly, through the phone, through the grainy live feed. Except, I wasn't staring back. My face in the camera was turned slightly away, as if looking at something beside the bed. A slow smile spread across my reflection. I felt nothing on my own lips. The camera image leaned closer to the screen. I lay frozen, eyes burning, brain screaming. In the reflection, I whispered, "You're in the wrong place." Then the front camera me turned, looked directly at where I actually was, and smiled wider. "I'll show you how to switch." When I finally broke free, the phone clattered to the floor. I didn't have the courage to pick it up for an hour. When I did, the battery was dead. The last saved video file wouldn't play. Just a corrupted thumbnail. A stretched, blackened shape standing by the bed. I haven't slept in that room since. I moved the mattress into the living room, leaving the bedroom door closed at all times. But shadows travel with you. They don't need rooms. Last night, I woke up on the couch, body heavy and unmoving. The TV was off. The only light was the street lamp outside, leaking in through the blinds and drawing long, parallel stripes across the wall opposite. There, in the midst of those stripes, was my shadow. Except my body was angled one way on the couch, and the shadow was angled another. Face turned toward me, standing, watching. I felt that same tug deep inside my skull, that same impossible sensation of something reaching in from the outside. The last thought that wasn't overlaid with someone else's was a simple, useless one. If it moves before I do, which one of us is really real? Now, as I write this, I notice something strange. I move my hand. My shadow follows half a second later, like it's waiting, like it's letting me go first, for now. Story 3. When my body answered without me. Always thought of my body as mine. My hands, my voice, my face, extensions of my will. Even in sleep paralysis, that was the one comfort. This isn't real. My body is here. My thoughts are mine. That belief didn't survive what happened last winter. It started with whispering. Not the classic demon on your chest whisper. Not growls. Not Latin chanting or anything dramatic. Just conversation. Murmured words in the dark. Too soft to fully catch. Too close to ignore. I'd wake up in the middle of the night unable to move, eyes locked on the ceiling, ears full of a low hum. At first I thought it was the building, neighbors through the walls, pipes, something. Then one night, in the thick of that half-dream haze, I realized the whispers were coming from much closer. From my own pillow, from directly beside my head. 2 voices. One I didn't recognize. The other one sounded like me. Not exactly, but close enough. Same pitch, same rhythm, same little pause on certain syllables. Hearing yourself talking without your permission is a special kind of horror. The first clear sentence I remember came from the unfamiliar voice. Calm, patient, almost professional. "You're adapting faster now." My own voice, or the one using it, answered, muffled by the weight of paralysis. "I remember more each time." The words crawled across my skin. I wasn't saying them. I was certain. My mind was a silent scream, and yet my mouth, my tongue, my throat were apparently busy in some other conversation. The other voice continued. "Good. That makes it easier." A pause. "Does he suspect?" My voice breathed a quiet laugh. "He thinks it's just sleep paralysis." They both chuckled. I did not. The paralysis broke in a sudden, nauseating lurch. I jerked upright, gasping. The room was empty. My own voice echoed in my head, out of sync with my thoughts, like a memory from the wrong angle. The logical part of my brain insisted I'd been dreaming. Hypnopompic hallucinations. The remains of a nightmare clinging to the first moments of waking. I would have believed that if it hadn't happened again. And again. And again. Always the same structure. I wake. I can't move. 2 voices, one of them using my mouth like a borrowed microphone. Over time, I picked up more fragments. No, he doesn't recall the overlap yet. Keep the routines. Familiarity accelerates compliance. His social patterns are negligible, few external witnesses. One night, the unfamiliar voice asked a different question. "Can you imitate him fully now?" My voice answered with a confidence I'd never use about myself. "Of course. I've been practicing." Silence stretched. Then, with a sinking horror, I realized both voices were waiting for something. Footsteps approached the bed. I didn't hear them with my ears so much as feel them in my bones. Tiny tremors through the frame. A shape leaned over me. I couldn't see it. My eyes were fixed on the ceiling, every muscle frozen, every nerve firing. The unfamiliar voice moved closer to my left ear. The version of my voice, the one that wasn't mine, stayed near my right. "Demonstrate," the strange voice said. There was a brief, sick pause. Then I heard myself, the other self, say in a perfect imitation of my real waking tone, "Hey, it's me. I'm fine. Just tired lately. Work's been rough. I'll call you tomorrow, okay?" The words weren't addressed to anyone in the room. They were too generic, too rehearsed. Then I heard a different imitation. My laugh, my casual sarcasm. The offhand way I say, yeah, I'm okay, don't worry." Layered, repeated, tweaked, refined. Trying on versions of me like clothes. The unfamiliar voice hummed approvingly. "Good enough. We can start extending the windows." I woke fully with tears on my face and a raw, aching throat, like I'd been talking for hours. I started recording my sleep. Audio only at first. I pointed my phone mic at the bed, set a sleep recordings app, and let it run until the battery died or morning came. The first few nights captured nothing but shifting, blankets rustling, occasional coughing. Then, on the 5th night, I woke with the now familiar paralysis, the now familiar hum of near-silent conversation, and the new awareness that my phone sat on the nightstand, red recording light glowing in the dark. The unfamiliar voice spoke, unusually loud this time, as if deliberately pushing through cotton. He's recording again. My voice, the one that wasn't mine, answered, annoyed. I noticed. He thinks he's clever. A pause, then louder, clearly. Go ahead. Let him listen. It'll sound like his own dreams anyway. The paralysis snapped a second later. I lunged for the phone with clumsy, trembling hands. The recording was still running. My heart pounded as I hit stop, then play. Static, soft breaths, the occasional shift of sheets. At the exact minute I knew the conversation had occurred, something else played. Not two voices. One. Mine. Mumbling nonsense phrases in a slurry half-sleep tone. I'm okay. No, it's fine. Yeah, tomorrow. Office, meeting. No, I'm okay. It sounded like normal sleep talking. Forgettable, embarrassing, utterly mundane, if not for the fact that I remembered the actual words. It wasn't what I'd heard. It was what I was supposed to hear. Turned to video next. Propped the phone on a stack of books, front camera toward the bed, night mode on. I fell asleep facing the wall. Sometime around 3 a.m., I woke paralyzed, my back to the phone. The conversation was already midstream. No, not yet. He still reacts when there's overlap. Reduce the overlap then, the stranger said. You have enough baseline to simulate simple tasks. But if he notices, that isn't your concern. Continue integration. I tried to focus on the sensation of my jaw, on whether it was moving, on whether my lips were forming words. They weren't. They were utterly still. And yet, the sound of my voice continued. I told you already, it said, exasperated. He's more resistant than the last one. The last one. The last what? The last me? Or the last person whose body had been used like a suit? The strange voice shifted locations. I could feel it, like static moving from one side of the bed to the other. Adjust the schedule, it murmured. Use waking hours, briefly at first. Cold flooded my gut. Waking hours. The paralysis ended with a lurch that left me gagging. I sat up, spun around, and grabbed the phone. The video was still recording. During the section where I knew the voices had spoken, the footage showed nothing but me lying there, chest rising and falling, face slack. Then, without warning, my body sat up. Slowly, stiffly, back straight. My eyes stayed closed. A smile crept across my face. Not wide, not exaggerated, but subtly wrong. Too even, too controlled. In the recording, I turned toward the camera, eyes still shut. My mouth opened. In a perfectly sober, wakeful tone, I said, "Stop watching yourself and start watching the gaps." Then I lay back down in the exact same position, like a video played in reverse. My eyes never opened once on the footage, but I remember being awake inside that body, trapped, listening. After that, things changed. Sometimes I'd come back in the middle of the day, standing in the kitchen with no memory of why I'd gone there, phone in my hand, with messages typed, but unsent. Sometimes I'd find half-finished texts to friends I hadn't spoken to in months. They sounded like me, but a little too polished, a little too deliberate. "Hey, just checking in. Been thinking about you. How are you holding up?" I don't write like that. I barely check in with myself. One evening, my mother called. Her voice shook on the other end. "Are you okay?" I swallowed. "Yeah. Why?" "You sounded strange yesterday," she said slowly. "You called me at 3 in the morning. You don't remember?" No, I didn't." "What did I say?" She hesitated. "You just asked a lot of questions. What my schedule is, when I'm usually home, if I still live alone. It was like you were taking notes." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles popped. My other self was expanding its map, using me as a surveyor. The last time I felt honest-to-God sleep paralysis was last week. I woke pinned to the mattress, eyes open, breathing shallow. But there were no whispers this time. No patient exchange in the dark. Just a single voice. The stranger's, right above me. "Do you understand now?" it asked. I couldn't answer. Didn't need to. It continued anyway. "We borrow. We test. We keep what works." Something leaned close enough that I felt cold breath on my eyelids. Your body talks even when you don't. It adjusts. It practices. It imitates. That's all we need. A pause. Then, almost gently, "You should be proud. You're very cooperative." My own voice spoke up from somewhere beside the bed. Only this time, for the first time, I felt my jaw moving with it. Not fully, just a little, like someone guiding it with invisible hands. "We're almost ready," my mouth said. I didn't say it. "Soon. You'll only have to watch." The paralysis didn't break when the voices stopped. It broke when my body sat up without me. I felt everything. The pull of muscles, the shift of weight, the cold of the floor on bare feet. But I wasn't controlling any of it. I wasn't in the driver's seat anymore. I was in the back, locked in the trunk. My hand reached for the phone, opened the contacts, scrolled, stopped on a name. My thumb hovered, then pressed. Call. Somewhere inside I screamed and screamed and screamed. My mouth smiled. "Hey," I heard myself say into the ringing silence. "It's me. I couldn't sleep. Thought I'd check in." The call connected. A sleepy voice answered, confused. "Hello?" My own voice brightened. "Yeah, it's me. I was just wondering. You still live alone, right?"